I used to think that my life was a tragedy, but now I realize it's a comedy.
Thor Ragnarok delivers the most radical change to Hulk so far, both in terms of characterization and mechanics. Are these changes justified, or do they contradict what came before? Let's find out. Age of Ultron regressed Bruce. By the end, he was back to thinking of Hulk as nothing but a monster to lock away. Hulk, however, had some growth. Though Bruce wanted to run off with Natasha, Hulk chose to leave her behind for fear of hurting her. We left off on the possibility of developing Hulk as a character unique from Bruce. In Ragnarok, Thor finds Hulk on the planet of Sakaar. How did he get here?
He's jettisoned into space at the end of Avengers, Age of Ultron, and we find him as a gladiator, king, prince, on the planet of Sakaar.
Apparently, the Quinjet flew through a wormhole.
How'd you arrive here?
Quinjet.
Sakaar, surrounded by cosmic gateways. It is the collection point for all lost and unloved things.
Okay, that's impossible. It's a jet. It can't break Earth's atmosphere, and it certainly can't survive in space. And even if it did, the journey would certainly kill Hulk. And the probability that a wormhole would spontaneously appear and deliver him to a habitable planet is absolutely absurd. Hulk has been on Sakaar for 2 years, I think. The planet is affected by some sort of time dilation.
Time works real different around these parts.
While traveling from Earth to Asgard, Loki is kicked out of the Bifrost 11 seconds before Thor is. Yet there's a much longer gap between their arrivals on Sakaar.
Bifrost found me out here weeks ago. Weeks ago? Yes. I just got here.
Hulk has been on Sakaar for 2 years, relative to time on Earth. What does that translate to in Sakaar time? Let's assume Loki was on Sakaar for only 2 weeks to get a conservative estimate. That means 11 seconds of Earth time translates to 2 weeks of Sakaar time. By crunching the numbers, we find that, at minimum, Hulk has been on Sakaar for 63,969 years. That is absurd. The movie doesn't treat it like this is the case.
I've been Hulk for 2 years?
I'm afraid so.
So, I suppose we should treat it as 2 years as well, even though this doesn't add up. Putting aside the contradictions that have brought him here, what has Hulk been up to on Sakaar?
I love koalas. I don't care if they have chlamydia.
Hulk, just for once in your life, don't smash!
He's been fighting death matches as a champion.
Doug's dead.
That's right, everyone who fights the Grandmaster Champion perishes.
And his opponents are slaves.
I preside over a little harlequinade called the Contest of Champions. People come from far and wide to unwillingly participate in it.
Hulk must have one of those obedience discs on him, forcing him into these fights. Oh, wait, no, he doesn't have one, which means he's doing this willingly. And given how he basks in the crowd's cheers, he enjoys it. Holy shit. There's character assassination, and then there's this. Previously, Hulk was shown to dislike violence. He only fought to defend himself or others. Now he's murdering slaves for fun. Strap yourselves in, because we're just getting started. Upon recognizing Hulk, Thor is relieved.
He's a friend from work!
Hulk will no doubt help him escape his enslavement. Right?
Oh, fuck. I can't believe you've done this.
Oh. He attacks him. Well, Hulk doesn't understand what's at stake. I'm sure once Thor explains that many innocent lives are in danger, Hulk will definitely agree to help him.
My people need me to get back to Asgard. We must prevent Ragnarok, the prophesied death of my homeworld, the end of days. It's the end of everything.
Oh. Hulk doesn't give a shit. But Thor is still his friend, and Hulk wants to help his friends.
Go again.
Look how they massacred my boy.
Oh. Now he's laughing at Thor's pain. What is happening? Okay, let's see if we can make any sense of this. Let's start with the mechanics of this fight and move back into the character stuff, because there are some interesting power scaling issues here. Previous movies strongly implied that Hulk was the stronger of the two. Thor struggled against Iron Man, while Hulk could go toe-to-toe with Veronica. Loki was capable of challenging Thor, while Hulk threw him around like a rag doll. And Hulk killed a Leviathan with a single punch. while Thor has only ever approached such a feat with Mjolnir. But in this fight, a hammerless Thor, going up against a Hulk with years of practice and training, appears on par with Hulk's strength, maybe even stronger. I understand that Ragnarok is largely about Thor realizing his potential and unleashing his true power, but that power refers to his thunder/lightning abilities, not his physical strength. I get the feeling that the movie has a bias for its titular character, and has thus given him an unearned power boost.
I went and met with Marvel and I said, look, Thor's got to be the coolest character if you're going to call the movie Thor, so that's the first thing that we need to focus on.
This also might stem from a misunderstanding of the character.
Because everyone's like, oh, Hulk's the strongest thing in the universe, but Thor's a god. They're both, I think, equally as strong as each other.
Thor being labeled a god doesn't mean anything definitive about his strength in relation to Hulk. If that title was all the justification needed, well...
You've seen what he becomes, right? I have. And it's beautiful. Godlike.
The power scaling doesn't add up, and we see this issue again during the movie's climax. This time, for plot purposes, Hulk is arbitrarily weaker than usual.
One of the things with Hulk is he's so, such a strong character, and it's how do you get rid of him so that, it makes it harder for the heroes to win their battle. And the best thing about having Fenris there was it keeps him occupied and gets him out of the picture while Thor and Valkyrie can fight Hela.
Hulk struggles against Fenris for an extended period of time. Remember, this is the same guy who killed a Leviathan with a single punch. You can't beat a big wolf? Are we supposed to believe Fenris is substantially stronger than a Leviathan? This might seem like a pointless diatribe, but power scaling is important. It helps determine the stakes. It's difficult to fear for a character's life if his strength shifts from scene to scene based on what the plot requires. Moving on, Thor attempts to use the lullaby, a ritual that calms Hulk and reverts him back into Bruce, but it fails.
At no point were any children having to fight Mark Ruffalo.
Hey, big guy, the sun's getting real low.
It's strange that Thor tries this, since Age of Ultron implied Natasha was the only one capable of using it.
Natasha, I could really use a lullaby.
Wouldn't he know that? What's more interesting is that it almost works.
Hey, big guy. The sun's getting real low. That's it. Sun's going down.
I won't hurt you anymore. No one will.
This implies a stronger bond between Thor and Hulk than what might have been assumed. Although, most of this movie doesn't seem to think they had a bond at all, so maybe this whole thing was just a misdirect for a gag. After the fight, Thor is put up in Hulk's penthouse. He asks for his help.
If you help me get back to Asgard, I can help you get back to Earth. Huh?
Earth ain't Hulk.
At first glance, this seems like an obvious perspective Hulk would have. But on closer inspection, this doesn't add up. Hulk has been attacked and feared on Earth, but he's also made friends and found a place to belong there. At worst, Earth is a mixed bag. Why does he write off the whole planet as hating him? And if Hulk were to object to returning to Earth, I would think it would be due to the reason he left in the first place, so he couldn't harm others. If you recall, Wanda's mind manipulation forced Hulk to terrorize a city. Horrified at the harm done to so many innocents, he left the Avengers for fear of hurting them, especially Natasha. This logic no longer tracks because Hulk has no qualms about killing innocent people on Sakaar. In fact, he relishes it. His reason for leaving has been retconned into something completely different. Aside from Hulk's shifting motivations, there are other issues with his opinion of Earth. Should he even be aware of the concept of Earth? Hulk now has knowledge of multiple concepts he previously lacked.
Hey, Banner! No Banner, only Hulk!
This builds off of this line from Age of Ultron.
You're Bruce Banner. Right. Don't mention puny Banner.
Ragnarok confirms that this was something Hulk actually said, rather than just a joke from Tony. Hulk also comprehends what the Avengers are as an entity.
We call you the stupid Avenger. You're tiny Avenger!
But how can this be? These concepts seem to be beyond Hulk before. Not long ago, he didn't even understand what lightning and thunder was. Now, though, he better understands the world around him, which makes sense if he spent years learning. He also speaks more, indicating cognitive development. But time spent learning on Sakaar doesn't explain how he's gained knowledge of his time on Earth. I doubt the Sakaarians know anything about his origins. which means this knowledge could only come from one place: Bruce's memories. We might have assumed that Hulk only had access to fragments of Bruce's memories, since that's what Bruce had of Hulk's. That aligns with Hulk's limited knowledge. For instance, he seemed familiar with various people from Bruce's life, but didn't know about certain weather phenomena. But for Hulk to understand who Bruce is, and to understand concepts like the Earth and the Avengers, he would require a lot of access to Bruce's memories. These things take a lot of context and a grasp of various abstract concepts. If Hulk has gained this access, the movie doesn't bother explaining how or why. And wait a minute, do the Sicarians speak English? Hulk can't have one of those translator implants, since not even bullets can pierce his skin, which means that, for some reason, all of these aliens know and choose to speak English. That is absurd. Thor tries to convince Hulk to help him.
This is what friends do, they support each other.
You're Banner's friend.
This is a strange thing for him to say, as everything we've seen indicates that Hulk is closer to Thor than Bruce is. I can't recall a single meaningful interaction between Thor and Bruce. The closest we get is this party scene from Age of Ultron, but they don't even talk to each other. On the other hand, Hulk has displayed some playfulness with him. Why would Hulk make this claim? Later, Hulk notices Thor moping. He goads Thor into opening up. Maybe he feels guilty about how he treated him? Then why didn't he feel this way before, when Thor was begging for his help? Until now, Hulk has given no indication that he cares about Thor in the slightest. Inexplicably, some of the old, compassionate Hulk has returned.
Lost my father! Lost my hammer! Why? You're not even listening!
And it's gone.
Hulk straight up mocks Thor for being angry about losing his father and his hammer. Or maybe this is an unsophisticated attempt to make Thor get over his depression? Given how Hulk has treated him thus far, I'm not inclined to think so.
You're being a really bad friend! You bad friend!
It's bizarre for Hulk to make this accusation, given the kind of friend he's been lately. Based on the previous movies, Hulk has no reason to have ill feelings towards Thor. Sure, they fought in the Avengers, but Hulk was being influenced by the Scepter at the time, and when next they met, Hulk felt comfortable being cooperative and playful. Hulk's current opinion of Thor isn't based on anything tangible.
Earth does hate you.
Hulk being upset by this is intriguing, given that he previously acknowledged that Earth hated him in a matter-of-fact manner.
Earth hate Hulk.
This reaction means that, deep down, it hurts to acknowledge this reality. Hulk longs for Earth, for his home, to accept him the way Sakaar does.
You know, we all have a Hulk in us, you know? We all have that part of us, like that monster that, you know, just wants to be loved.
Hulk doesn't want to help Thor because that might mean returning to Earth and facing that cold truth. However, this doesn't explain why he treated Thor so poorly before he mentioned getting him back to Earth. And Hulk's compassionate nature is still strikingly absent. There should be more of an internal struggle between Hulk's conflicting desires, helping Thor versus avoiding Earth. But there isn't. Thor apologizes and scolds Hulk on his recklessness.
No, sorry, I just get so angry all the time. Hulk always angry.
Hulk has become self-aware enough to recognize his lack of self-control and its negative consequences. This points to development in emotional maturity. Or it would. On closer look, Hulk has always had surprisingly strong self-control. In The Incredible Hulk, despite the rage of battle, he let Abomination live at Betty's behest. Up through Age of Ultron, he was able to direct his anger only at the enemy. Aside from instances of mind control, he's never attacked civilians or teammates. He's demonstrated ingenuity in battle, having the awareness to look past his rage and think critically. And during moments of sudden calm, Hulk can sit back and observe, not always requiring a target to vent his anger. Ragnarok is the first time Hulk has willingly attacked the innocent, doing so for the emotional high of the crowd's praise. It's also the first time he's attacked a teammate out of anger, and he did so with a recklessness lacking any skill or strategy. Which means Hulk has actually regressed in emotional maturity. This line doesn't actually indicate any substantial growth.
We're the same, you and I. We're just a couple of hot-headed fools.
Thor connects with Hulk on their similar temperaments. This opens up Hulk to the idea that Thor could be his friend. even though they already were friends, but whatever. Hulk has Valkyrie come over so Thor can talk to her. He even makes her stay when she tries to leave. Hulk is finally treating Thor like his friend, but we soon discover that Hulk's motivations aren't so altruistic. Thor says,
I'm putting together a team. It's me, you, and the big guy.
No team, only Hulk!
And not long after, Thor escapes, with Hulk shouting,
Wednesday!
We find that Hulk's motivations are entirely selfish. He wants Thor to ignore the plight of Asgard to keep him company. So he helps Thor, but only so far as it doesn't inconvenience him. He'll get Valkyrie to talk to Thor, but he won't lift a finger to help Asgard, since that would mean leaving Sakaar. That's why he initially dismissed Thor out of hand, while being friendly with Valkyrie. Thor expects Hulk to help him, while Valkyrie expects nothing. She's also his trainer, which means he gets something out of her. Although, during his fight with Thor, Hulk displayed no strategy or tactics, opting to just swing wildly and charge blindly. So I guess Valkyrie's a shit trainer. Still, the point stands. For Hulk, it's all about what he can get out of the relationship. One of the movie's goals was to explore who Hulk is without the anger.
Now we get to see who Hulk is when he's not angry, not totally angry. And we get to hear him speak, see how he lives in his apartment, his bachelor pad. Who is Hulk? What is he like when he's not fighting, you know? He finally gets to tell Thor what he really feels about the Avengers. For years now, I've always wondered, like, okay, who is the Hulk? You know, what kind of a roommate would he be? How would he dress? How would he talk? How would he sleep, eat, you know? Have relationships? What does he feel? What does he care about?
Having Hulk speak and have a life that he's not always angry, where we get to know what kind of a roommate he is.
He was always angry. We never got to see him any other way, and then we thought it would be nice to see him do something else. What he'd be like if he was a roommate. So he's still angry, but he's fun angry. It's a much more interesting, complex relationship that he has with Thor. He actually has scenes with Thor other than punching him or hitting him and fighting with him.
You never see that with the Hulk, that sensitive side, that introspective side to the Incredible Hulk, where he's thinking about why he's angry. He's suddenly starting to question his emotions.
Hulk is no longer just, I'll turn into the Hulk and smash everything. Hulk, you'll see like an introspective, quieter version of Hulk.
As it turns out, when Hulk's not angry,
he's an asshole.
As you may have noticed, the movie has made an interesting choice when it comes to Hulk's personality.
Do your kids ever give you tips on like what the Hulk should be doing or what he shouldn't be doing, like how to play him?
I just steal from them because they're like little Hulks. They're like, I don't want to do that, you know, they nobody likes me. And I think why kids relate to the Hulk so much is because they feel that same way. They have a little Hulk inside them that breaks out.
Well, we see a smarter version, like a smarter version of the Hulk. He's like a toddler in this one. Right?
Yeah. Thor and Hulk are like a angry, rebellious 6-year-old and his teenage babysitter.
I think Hulk is like a 3-year-old inside that giant hulking body. Thor is like a grown-up trying to reason with a 3 or 4-year-old. Literally, that 2-year-old that was in here before, I've had this conversation with them, me being Thor and them being the Hulk.
Because he's been the Hulk for 2 years now, he has the vocabulary of a 2-year-old.
The idea is that it's been 2 years since Age of Ultron, so Hulk is now a 2-year-old. This doesn't really make sense. As I stated earlier, Hulk has become less mature in multiple ways. He's less in control of his emotions, and his toddler-like behavior is directly tied to this emotional immaturity. This behavior indicates regression rather than growth. The only aspects in which he's grown is his knowledge of the world and his ability to speak.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
So the reasoning that he's been Hulk for 2 years, therefore he's like a 2-year-old, doesn't hold water. I'm no behavioral psychologist, but aren't children supposed to grow more mature with age, not less? Hulk follows Thor to the Quinjet. Natasha's message from Age of Ultron plays. Hulk freaks out, yelling and thrashing as he reverts back into Bruce. The transformation is reminiscent of Bruce's Hulk-outs, where he resists turning for fear of unleashing a monster. Does Hulk also view Bruce as a monster? Bruce feared that Hulk would hurt people. I can't imagine Hulk fears the same from Bruce. I think it's reasonable to assume he's afraid Bruce will return to Earth. Or perhaps it's simpler than that. Hulk wants to be in control, so he can do whatever he wants. He doesn't want to be subject to Bruce's whims, no matter what they are. But if the motivation behind their fear is so different, why mirror their transformations? What's the purpose? Like other aspects of the movie, it serves to flesh out Hulk as a unique character in his own right. Before, Hulk was more of a condition that Bruce suffered from. Now though, Hulk is his own person, one who also desires control of his body. Bruce and Hulk are portrayed more as equals. But there's a reason we've never seen the Hulk to Bruce transformation depicted this way. Hulk emerges when Bruce experiences extreme emotion. It's only when Hulk is calmed enough does Bruce re-emerge. He doesn't look very calm here. In fact, there's a lot about Ragnarok's Hulk-Bruce dynamic that doesn't add up, such as how long Hulk has been in control.
So how long have you been like that? Big, green, stupid.
Hulk, always Hulk.
There's an extended version of Hulk and Thor's argument, where Bruce and Hulk appear to briefly struggle for dominance.
Thor? Thor?
Thor. Stop. Bad dream.
But this was cut, giving the impression that Hulk has had absolute control since Age of Ultron. Also, Hulk was a racist in this scene?
You stupid white man!
Hashtag Hulk is cancelled. How has Hulk maintained control for 2 years straight? There are many times he isn't particularly emotional. What about when he sleeps? What's going on here? Well, not long after Bruce returns, he says this.
The whole thing is totally different this time. I always felt like Hulk and I each had a hand on the wheel, but this time it's like he had the keys of the car and I was locked in the trunk.
The rules have changed.
Hulk's no longer depending on Banner's anger. That's kind of, I think, the exciting progression of the Banner-Hulk relationship moving forward. Anger is no longer the only reason that he turns into the Hulk. Now we have this other thing going on between them.
Why though? The movie provides no reason for this. And there's no inkling that this is meant to be a mystery. Neither Bruce nor Thor question it. Bruce just states that things are different now and leaves it at that. This is a huge shift in the mechanics of the Hulk. Mechanics that have remained consistent through the last 3 movies, and were given no explanation.
The rules don't apply anymore. That's what's so confounding to Banner and frightening, and that's kind of, I think, the exciting progression. We were improvising a lot with the idea that we were gonna really just break all the rules of the Marvel Universe. And we were really like, we're breaking the mold here. And we're like really breaking all the rules here.
You know, I think we all really wanted to break all the rules with this movie, but still, you know, follow the tradition.
We all knew that we kind of wanted to shake it up and break the rules. We wanted to break the forms, you know? We wanted to break all the norms, kind of break the rules with it. Chris wanted to. We wanted to do that with the franchise, wanted to do it with Banner, wanted to do it with Hulk. We kind of blew the doors off on this movie, I think. We broke all the rules.
So these blatant contradictions were on purpose. Great. Anyway, Bruce is back. One of the first things he asks about is Natasha and Sokovia, which makes sense. The last thing he recalls is trying to escape with Natasha during Ultron's assault. Or, wait, would that be the last thing he remembers? The movie implied that Hulk has greater access to Bruce's memories. Wouldn't Bruce have the same? Or is this something he needs to learn to do? We're not told how Hulk has gained such access, so who knows? Bruce and Thor then have this exchange.
Quite a lot's happened. You and I had a fight recently.
Did I win?
No, I won, easily.
Doesn't sound right.
Well, it's true.
Why would Bruce give a shit if he won the fight? His priority would be ensuring he didn't hurt anybody. That's what his major concerns have always been.
Did I hurt anybody?
Thor gets him dressed in some of Tony's clothes and explains the situation.
My people are in great danger, and you and I, we have to fight this really powerful being who also happens to be my sister.
I don't want to fight your sister. That's a family issue.
Oh, so Bruce also doesn't care about his friend or the plight of innocence. Bruce dedicated his life to helping others.
I didn't see an end, so I put a bullet in my mouth and the other guy spit it out. So I moved on. I focused on helping other people.
But now, I guess he doesn't give 2 fucks. He even tries to pass it off as a family issue, as if this were some petty squabble between siblings.
She's an evil being.
I don't care what she is. I'm not fighting any more beings. If I turn into the Hulk, I am never going to come back again.
Bruce has been willing to sacrifice his life to help others in the past. Remember, he risked dying to bring back Hulk to protect Harlem. Now, though, he's entirely against the idea, despite the lives that hang in the balance.
You're just using me to get to the Hulk. What? It's gross.
What? No.
You're not my friend.
No, I don't even like the Hulk. I prefer you.
Thanks.
And now Bruce is also acting like a child. What the fuck? And again, he's putting himself before the needs of his friend. It's understandable that he would be afraid of losing himself forever. Yet I would expect him to at least consider helping Thor. There should be an internal struggle happening. Do I remain myself but let innocents die? Or do I sacrifice myself so they might live? We get none of that. And Bruce has never been a character seeking other people's validation. He wouldn't care if Thor preferred him or Hulk. Why is he being so petty?
When it comes to fighting evil beings, he is very powerful and useful.
Yeah, Banner's powerful and useful too. How many PhDs does Hulk have? 0. How many PhDs does Banner have? 7.
Why does Bruce care so much about being perceived as useful? Sure, he's always wanted to be of use to others. His arc in The Incredible Hulk was about realizing that Hulk could be used to help people. By the time of Age of Ultron, we have both Bruce and Hulk contributing to the Avengers in their own ways, doing as much good as possible. This line acts as if Bruce has been dismissed as useless up until now, which is definitely not the case. Finally, Thor gives up on recruiting Hulk. His goal now is to get them both to Asgard.
I needed this guy. I'll be Tony Stark. Tony and the Gypsy.
No, you're not Tony. You're Bruce Banner.
Then why did you dress me up like Tony?
Because you were naked.
Okay, I'll give you that.
And now Bruce is acting like an idiot. Great.
Why are you being so weird?
Maybe the fact that I was trapped for 2 years inside of a monster made me a little weird.
The idea seems to be that being trapped in Hulk for so long has caused this stark change in behavior. Previously, we've seen that post-Hulk out, Bruce is physically and mentally drained. This might be an extreme version of those side effects, except it doesn't line up. Physically, Bruce is completely fine. Mentally, he doesn't seem fatigued at all. Instead, his personality is altered, making him spastic and childish. He's changed to be more similar to this movie's version of Hulk, which I think might be the point.
This one, you really we explored the duality of those characters where they're fighting for the same body. In Hulk form, you'll hear Banner lines of dialogue, and in Banner form, he'll say stuff that Hulk has said.
Yeah. It really captures the duality of those characters. Banner will say things that you've heard Hulk say earlier in the movie and vice versa.
Yeah, you see just the two of them battling it out. And I know that, there's a little bit more of that conflict and that duality that's going to evolve between Banner and the Hulk in upcoming movies.
But the execution is all out of whack. Being Hulk hasn't altered Bruce's personality before. And the change is so radical, I think it requires an entire movie just to address properly.
And then who's Banner without the Hulk? Who is Banner who isn't afraid of destroying everything around him for feeling or having relationships? He's been in the Hulk. He's been in the trunk of the Hulk car for 2 years. His past neurological traumas no longer exist. Nice. And so Banner comes out, I always thought as like a 12-year-old boy. He's very curious and he's got a lot of energy and he's, doesn't want to go back to, doesn't know what he wants to do, and Thor's got to coax him.
Are you shitting me? His trauma's gone? Just like that. Living a fulfilling life with the Avengers wasn't enough to get Bruce past these hangups. But now he's totally over it. What the fuck? There's a deleted alternate version of this scene, which I definitely prefer because of this exchange.
Let's get you home.
What?
Your planet's just been invaded. You gotta fight a bee.
So you're coming?
Of course I am. This is what friends do. They help each other.
Great.
Despite not wishing to become Hulk again, Bruce makes it clear that he's still there to help his friend, retaining some of that old characterization. In the final version, Bruce tags along with Thor for no clear reason. I guess to hitch a ride back to Earth. Due to a sudden, inexplicable change of heart, Valkyrie volunteers to help Thor save Asgard. She takes them back to her apartment.
She's so beautiful and strong.
Who is this guy?
Friend.
I feel like I know you.
I feel like I know you too.
Previously, we saw how Bruce's opinions of people influenced how Hulk felt about them. This is our first example of the reverse, and contributes to the personing of Hulk. It's also a lazy way of getting the audience to like Valkyrie.
Nice car.
And forget about the whole selling people into slavery without remorse thing. Upon pointing out the largest wormhole, Bruce says,
"That looks like a collapsing neutron star inside of an Einstein-Rosen bridge."
Which is an observation. Then, when discussing the type of ship they need to fly through it, he says they need
An offline power steering system that could also function without the onboard computer.
What? Why does Bruce think their ship needs this feature? There is nothing to lead him to this conclusion. Both lines are pitiful attempts to display Bruce's intelligence. They're not only technobabble, but pointless technobabble. Literally nothing comes from Bruce making these observations. They could be cut from the movie and we lose nothing. They are also the only attempts to display Bruce's intelligence. And like Hulk, Bruce's ingenuity is absent from the movie. He might as well be just a guy. The fact that he's a scientist with 7 PhDs is meaningless. One interaction here between Bruce and Thor stuck out to me.
What do you say?
Uncharted metagalactic travel through a volatile cosmic gateway. Talk about an adventure.
We need a ship.
For some reason, Bruce is super excited about this? Why? Bruce has never longed for adventure. To the contrary, he's always wanted a normal life, to settle down and have a family. It's another instance of mischaracterization. Thor, Bruce, and Valkyrie make their escape from Sakaar. Through a portion of this flight, Bruce pilots the ship, because I guess that's something he can do now, even though he's had absolutely no training, not even flying Earth jets. The plot requires him to fly the ship with 0 difficulty, so he does. When they arrive on Asgard, Bruce makes an interesting remark.
Thought it'd be a lot nicer. I mean, not that it's not nice, it's just, it's on fire.
Bruce, that doesn't make any sense. Thor told you Asgard was under attack, and you're surprised because it's under attack. What are you on about?
What the fuck is Ruffalo doing, man?
Earlier, Bruce dropped this bombshell.
What I'm trying to tell you is that if I turn it to the Hulk again, Banner may never come back.
This raises the stakes dramatically. Turning into Hulk is akin to death for Bruce. The problem is, the movie doesn't treat this with the weight it deserves. Thus far, it hasn't been addressed at all. And then we suddenly get this scene in the way of a payoff, as Guardians are threatened by the giant undead wolf Fenris. Bruce takes a moment to consider before deciding to unleash Hulk to defend them.
We would often ask ourselves, have we seen this before? If so, let's do the opposite. Instead of Mark jumping down and turning into the Hulk and landing on the bridge, he has this, his big pratfall.
These scenes are similar in multiple ways. Both contain a threat only Hulk is capable of facing, requiring Bruce to make a sacrifice for the sake of helping others. I'm glad we finally get to see that Bruce cares about someone other than himself. Oh, and he remains Hulk for the rest of the movie.
If I turn into the Hulk, I am never gonna come back again.
So Bruce is, for all intents and purposes, dead. The strange thing is, the movie doesn't acknowledge this. There's no moment where Hulk reflects on taking permanent control. We don't get any thoughts from Thor about this, and everything with Hulk is portrayed as either comedic or heroic. There's no indication that something tragic has occurred. The last we see of Bruce is his lifeless body lying on the Bifrost. He's made to look as pathetic as possible for comedic purposes. That's a strange way to portray what is effectively a character death, to make him a joke. Yeah, I think it's time to address this. In my last video, I mentioned how Age of Ultron had multiple scenes where Bruce acted overly comedic. Ragnarok has this issue on steroids.
What are you doing? Stop doing that.
Tony wears his pants super tight.
Stop
Sorry.
it. You want revenge?
I'm just undecided.
Okay.
Last time I saw you, you were trying to kill everybody. Where are you at these days?
It varies from moment to moment.
Ain't it? Wait. Who's ain't it? Did you just say the Grandmaster used it for orgies?
Yeah. You're a scientist. Use one of your PhDs.
None of them are for flying alien spaceships!
There is hardly a frame where Bruce isn't mugging at the camera like Ernest Worrell.
Banner and Thor are kind of like your drunken uncle and the nephew who is meant to take care of him.
But why is he like this?
We did a lot of improvising on set and coming up with stuff on the day.
It was a very eclectic, wild world, and we were improvising a lot.
And we started just improvising.
Yeah, we did a lot of improvisation on this.
And then Taika would encourage us to improvise, and it sort of evolved through the process.
Where the joy of the movie lies is that playfulness that we found while we were improvising around what we already had.
I just sit next to them like this far away, and then I just say like, nah, that's dumb. Say this one, say this line, call him the stupid Avenger.
This style of acting lends itself to producing funny exchanges, but can be detrimental to character consistency. They were so concerned about what would be funny to say and do, they didn't consider whether it was something their characters would say and do. Thor Ragnarok contradicts the previous movies. A lot. And it turns out this was by design.
But it got to the point where it was like, it all felt familiar. We wanted to take a chance to do something different, and Taika said, let's put away everything we have done and just experiment.
No disrespect to the other films, but we had to approach it as if it's the first Thor film. Basically, look at the other two films that had come before.
Yeah.
And just start and then forget about them, and then like just make our own version. Loki has written a play about his death, and the death scene, shot for shot, comes from Dark World. That really was us saying to the audience, although I really respect those movies, we're kind of mocking that in a way, or just sort of saying that's as far as we're going to take it.
Oh.
Do you think it relies a lot on seeing the other films?
No.
I wonder sometimes if people understand what the Rainbow Bridge and all that sort of stuff is. It doesn't really matter, does it?
There's no continuity when you're living in the moment.
Oh, do you want to like change your character? Sure, I want to change my character. I want to make it more fun. Do you want to change your character? Yeah. I don't want him to be boring scientist guy anymore.
I didn't really think too much about the other movies. I was just trying to make the best movie I could, and I didn't want this to feel like an episode of like a show or something.
What makes a great story?
You just got to listen to yourself. You know, am I bored? I'm the audience in this movie. Am I bored? Yep. Change the scene.
Okay.
That's it. That's Taika's film school. If
There
you're
it is.
bored, change it.
They actively wanted to reinvent these characters.
We've been talking to Marvel, and we all agreed that Thor needed a little bit of an overhaul.
A whole new version of the big green monster this year.
Banner is like a new version of Banner.
Totally new. And we get to see a new version of the Hulk, and a kind of a new version of a new version of Thor.
Mark Ruffalo reinvented Banner, reinvented the Hulk.
And this film kind of feels like a standalone movie without all the continuity from the other ones, you know, and it was about reinventing it. Now, we wanted it to be different. That was the goal from the start, to just reinvent this character, reinvent the world. We wanted to reinvent the character and the world and do away with anything that was familiar.
I think we all had a vision and an idea and a want to do something vastly different than what we'd done before. That meant kind of doing away with what we knew and just reinventing it.
Each movie, I'm excited by the idea of reinventing Hulk.
Well, we worked out that Thor and Hulk had never really spoken on scene. So we got a chance to kind of invent that relationship and also reinvent our characters in a big way.
Yeah.
And we both got together and said, let's just wreck everything and just redo it and reinvent it. Ragnarok it. And reinvent it.
And to do so, they were willing to break and bend the continuity as they saw fit.
And I said, good, let's destroy everything we know and start again. Anything familiar, throw it out the door.
We destroyed the kind of memory of those first two films and used all of that history to like reboot the franchise.
But I sort of built in parameters of the character that I thought he had to abide by and had to speak a certain way and move a certain way. And this film really was, I was like, just, you know what? I'm just going to take a risk and throw it all away and play a different character.
As the third movie in the Thor series and the 17th movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that's a terrible idea. And it delivers a harsh blow to the stakes. How is the audience meant to get invested in a character's journey if they can suddenly become an entirely different person for no reason? Why should I even care about Hulk's arc in this movie? With this precedent set, the next movie might decide it doesn't count anymore. Taika's approach to Ragnarok is contradictory to the very idea of the MCU. Its draw is the continuity between all its movies, allowing its rich cast of characters to grow over long periods of time. If a director can come in and just disregard all the stuff he doesn't like, what's the point of this being in the same universe? Somehow, Thor Ragnarok is a much more drastic reboot of the character than the Avengers, and that movie had the added challenge of replacing the actor. And I've got more problems with the director's approach, particularly his opinion of the character.
You want to change your character? Yeah. I don't want him to be boring scientist guy anymore. This version of Hulk and Banner is the most interesting that we've ever seen. If you see Banner in those other movies, snore.
I think this is the greatest version of Hulk and Banner that you're going to see Controversial statement. Banner was boring before this movie.
Yeah, it's no wonder Bruce is so radically different when the movie's director has absolutely no respect for the character.
That's the story of my life, no respect.
But it isn't entirely Taika Waititi's fault. Mark Ruffalo is also partly to blame. He doesn't seem to understand anything, really. He somehow thought this movie did justice to the Planet Hulk comic.
So Hulk is on Sakaar. We're trying to honor the fans, and they're wanting there to be a Planet Hulk. So he's jettisoned into space at the end of Age of Ultron, and we find him as a gladiator, king, prince, on the planet of Sakaar, where he is made to fight his dear friend Thor. Everybody wants Planet Hulk. It's beloved by fans.
This was not going to be the Planet Hulk movie, but we were using elements of it.
We've spun it, and we've given a lot of that story to Thor while also introducing Hulk in the same context.
Well, the big thing I was loving to see was having him do Planet Hulk. And we kind of get to do this.
You didn't sound so confident in that. Is that a lie?
Ragnarok superficially grabs a couple elements from that story. Otherwise, it couldn't be more different. I suggest reading Planet Hulk for yourself. It's a fantastic story. It also seems the new direction taken with Hulk and Bruce was largely Mark's idea.
One of the things I always wanted to see, and it may or may not happen, is the battle between Hulk and Banner.
Right.
Because that's a constant struggle.
That's a great one.
So Kevin came to me, and Kevin Feige and Lou Esposito and Brad were like, asked me, like, what would you do if you had a standalone Hulk? Like, what would the story be? And I was like, I think it should be this, 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 and this, and it should end like this. And like, how about if we take that and we stretch that between Thor 3 and Avengers 4? So you do that character arc over these next 3 movies, so that you will basically have a standalone Hulk movie, but it'll be buried in these. And I was like, that sounds cool. So what you're seeing now is the beginning of that. There's a lot of questions, like, why doesn't he turn into the Hulk when he's angry? Why can the Hulk stay the Hulk when he's not angry? That all starts to get answered as we move along.
I'll talk about how this arc plays out when I tackle Infinity War and Endgame. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. For now, just looking at its setup, I have issues. There's no clear catalyst for this change, and if it's meant to be a mystery, that isn't clear. What's strange about all this is that Mark seemed to have a strong grasp of Hulk and Bruce's characters during Avengers and Age of Ultron. In retrospect, I can only assume that came largely from Joss Whedon. I get the impression from Ragnarok that neither Taika nor Mark grasped this character in the least.
To be honest, I didn't know what I was doing.
But I don't have any problems with Hulk during the rest of this climax. He beats Fenris. Then tries to fight Surtur because, yeah, he's a big evil monster. Then he saves Thor and Valkyrie by carrying them to the evacuation ship. At this point, I'm just glad his first instinct wasn't to tell them to get fucked and ditch them. In conclusion, Hulk has been utterly assassinated. All of his core character traits have been arbitrarily reversed. Hulk disliked violence. Now he loves violence. Hulk wanted to defend the innocent. Now he kills slaves for fun. Hulk cared about his friends. Now he laughs at their pain. Instances of Hulk's empathetic nature are rare and often backed by selfish motivations. He has regressed in his emotional maturity and displays none of his prior ingenuity. This character has more in common with Abomination than Hulk. Bruce is in the same camp. The mild-mannered scientist has become a spastic weirdo, mugging at the camera and spouting nonsensical childish dialogue. He too has become selfish, initially ignoring Thor's plight for his own issues. This does change by the movie's end, but is punctuated by his comedic death. The movie also haphazardly mucks about with the mechanics of the world and of Hulk, breaking continuity and obscuring the stakes. At the end of the rainbow, Thor Ragnarok is the complete derailment of Bruce and Hulk's arcs, and that sucks. Next time, I'll look at Infinity War to see if that movie can get them back on track.